Spoiler alert for both adaptations. You've been warned. The original Disney's Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite animated movies of all time, so naturally I was curious to see what this remake would be like. Was it going to be a fun, nostalgic retelling or a weak copy that mostly relies on nostalgia? Unfortunately, even after all the positive reviews the movie received, I'm going for the second. The Beauty and the Beast remake is a movie that does things very similar to the original, but it removes or changes a lot of the details that made the story work so well. It tried to add character traits and remove plot holes of the original, only to remove other character traits and adding new plot holes. It's not similar enough to be a fun retelling, nor different enough to be its own thing. I like the new songs, some of the visuals and some other things they added, but as a whole this comes off as a weak, underplayed copy of the original. Therefore, here's the top 10 worst changes in the Beauty and the Beast remake. Keep in mind, this list is purely opinion based. If you love this movie and disagree with the list, that's fine by me. It's not necessarily that I despise all these changes, but this list is based on changes that end up less good or hands down bad by comparison to the original. Let's not waste any more time and start the list. Number 10. The Enchantress has a bigger role. In the original, the Enchantress is a complete mystery. All you know is that she showed up, cursed the castle, and you never hear from her again. Here, it turns out the Enchantress actually lives in the same village Belle lives in, keeping an eye on things and providing a helping hand when she sees innocent people in trouble. But not just that, they even give an explanation as to why she cursed the servants as well, instead of just the prince. Sounds nice on paper, but in terms of execution this makes little to no sense, and it makes her look like even more of an unreasonable hack than you could consider her in the original. For example, in this movie if the last petal falls, the servants straight up die because they lose conscience and control, as well as the castle slowly breaks down bit by bit with each petal falling. What did the servants do in order to deserve such a cruel fate?
When the master lost his mother and his cruel father took that sweet innocent lad and twisted him up to be just like him, we did nothing.
Right. I'm sure Chip, the 8-year-old boy, was a real irresponsible douchebag for not saying no to the king's bad behavior towards his son. This argument really doesn't hold up. As I said, the Enchantress from the remake even lives in the same town Belle lives in, where the people are treating her badly. This raises a huge new plot hole. A prince who doesn't let a strange old woman in his house deserves to be cursed, but a town full of people treating her like trash and massively attempting murder does not deserve a curse? Just what is going on in this woman's mind? In the original, you can argue she is unreasonable, definitely, but at least she did one bad thing without clear explanation and she never showed up again. By making her a bigger character, her motives are going to become a bigger problem. Ask yourself this: what does her presence really add in the grand scheme of things? Nothing! You can remove her and not miss a thing. This change does not fix plot holes, it creates new ones. Speaking of plot holes... Number 9. Unnecessarily explained plot holes. The original I always considered a perfect example of a movie where there are a couple of big plot holes present, but the movie manages to avoid making the plot holes a burden. There are a lot of things that, if you stop and think about them, make little to no sense. Where are the prince's parents? What is he a prince of? If he truly is a prince, how come nobody knows who he is? How far is the castle from the village? If the prince was the wrongdoer, why did his servants get cursed as well? Those are all logical errors, but they never took away of the story for me because it knew what to focus on. It knew to make the story about the two main characters, who they are and how they bond. The movie doesn't make a big deal of these plot holes, so I never felt the need to make a big deal out of them too. Neither did it feel like knowing the answer to these plot holes would add a lot to the story of Belle and the Beast. The remake, however, tries to explain these plot holes, but the explanations they offer are incredibly brief and add nothing, making them feel rather pointless. I've already mentioned the Enchantress motivation, but remember the briefly mentioned backstory of the Beast's parents? Not being exploited at all. That brief moment is all there is. If you take the trouble of talking about the Beast's childhood, go all the way. Give us an actual scene that gives a good impression of his childhood, instead of this short exposition that feels like a cheap excuse to fix a plot hole. Come to think of it, they don't even explain what happens to the father. Where is he? Why didn't he get cursed? Then again, they also explain what happens to Belle's mother. At first, I really liked this. Through subtle visual storytelling, the movie shows that her mother died at a young age, and she's still in their heart. Perfectly fine scene. But then later on in the movie, there's this entire exposition dump about how Belle lived in Paris as a young child, and her mother died of the plague. This scene repeats what the audience already knows. Her mother died. You learn nothing new about Belle, and it doesn't change her character in any way, making this another pointless scene that adds nothing. Yes, the original has logical errors too, but they knew where to put the focus, so I wouldn't question them or let them be a burden. In the new one, they became a burden because it didn't know what to focus on, and it had a negative influence on the pacing. Number 8. Gaston's development. I've got mixed feelings about Gaston. Luke Evans, I think, is a great actor, and he gives this role his all. This Gaston has some traits you'd expect from the character, like his egoism and arrogance, and the mirror scene got a big laugh out of the audience. Yet something felt off. In the original, Gaston is an upbeat guy with a big smile on his face. He's used to being the best and getting everything he wants, and he loves every minute of it. When he announces he wants to marry Belle, it's because he thinks she's the most beautiful girl in town, not because of her character. She's just another trophy for his reputation, and he is stupidly blind for her disinterest in him. He goes as far as to plan a wedding before he even proposes. He's that confident. We don't get to see the grumpy side of Gaston until Belle says no to him, and we don't get to see the true angry side of him until Belle shows affection for someone else and insults him. This was a powerful man that had the town eating out of the palm of his hands, someone you wouldn't dare to stand up against. So when Belle humiliates him in the beginning, it felt very natural for him to get upset and wanting some kind of revenge, like taking darker measures to prove nobody messes with him, and proving that if he wants something, he will always get it. In the remake, he's more of a grumpy pretty face. Belle doesn't humiliate him, but she politely rejects him, not making his reason for going dark on her as logical. He doesn't have the same smile and energy, the same confidence or the power the original has. Even as they're singing the Gaston song, you don't see him doing much of anything. Why not show an absurd way of darting with knives?
I use antlers in all of my decorating.
Why not show a shot that has a clearer view of the decorating? This change of attitude made it much harder for me to believe this Gaston is the beloved man the Gaston song claims him to be. He also tries to hands down kill Belle's father halfway in the movie, not giving this Gaston the opportunity to slowly get darker. This makes the development from him turning from a jerk into a monster not nearly as subtle. Both Maurice and LeFou even stand up to him, as well as the town doubts if Gaston is as great as they thought he was, once Maurice returns to the village and confesses Gaston tried to murder him. Seeing Gaston being this clumsy in his actions, seeing the people doubt him this much makes him not as powerful and loved as in the original, and it contradicts his song where he is praised. I would have liked it if they completely changed the character, but it feels like he's still trying to be the same character as the original. As a result, this Gaston doesn't feel as three-dimensional or well developed as the old one. I want to like this Gaston given I like Luke Evans, and there are some of his moments I genuinely enjoyed, but as a whole, this was a rather underplayed character, especially compared to the original. Number 7. The Beast's behavior when Belle is gone. In the original, the Beast was a depressed, broken mess at this point. He lost all hope at seeing Belle again, thus losing hope of ever experiencing the same love again. In the remake, right when Belle leaves, instead of being down, the Beast sings a song and he energetically runs through the castle, making it look like he's not damaged at all. Sure, he says that he's sad,
Though she's already flown so far beyond my reach, she's never out of sight.
but that's the thing. He says it, but he doesn't act like it, not making you feel or even understand his sadness that much. If he truly was as depressed as the next team claims him to be, he wouldn't start energetically singing and running like this. It already makes Belle leaving him considerably less tragic, as it doesn't seem to hurt his spirit nearly as much. So when Belle returns, it isn't nearly as touching as it was in the old one. It's just something he notices as he's fighting, lifting his spirits a bit more than they already were. Now, you may call all of this nitpicky, but that's the thing. All these moments do is remind me of a movie that does the same thing, but better in every detail. By being so similar, it doesn't give itself a chance to be its own thing, nor does changing the details work in this movie's favor. In that case, I'd rather see an exact copy. For as it is now, I'm definitely not fond of this movie. I tried to stay optimistic of the downsides in the beginning of the movie, but after 30 minutes I lost this optimism. The Beast's reaction when Belle was gone was one of the reasons I think this is an underplayed movie. Number 6. When Belle shows the mirror to the town. Speaking of underplayed, there are two things I feel are really underplayed in this scene. In the original, there's a build-up to this moment, and it gives you time to let the reveal of the Beast to the town sink in. Belle screams to the town she's going to prove her father isn't crazy, and when she reveals the mirror to the town, we, as the audience, see the mirror up close as the Beast is roaring and Belle panics over the possible fate of her father. The Beast truly has a monstrous appearance in this scene, almost making him look like a dark being, thus making the audience, alongside the townfolk, experience the shock of this reveal. In the remake, however, the mirror is really darn lame in how tiny it is. It was so tiny that even on a big cinema screen I had a hard time seeing the Beast at all. Belle also holds it low and only people close to her are able to see anything. Couldn't they design a bigger mirror? The other problem is the reaction of the crowd. It was Belle's affection for the Beast followed by her insulting Gaston that triggered Gaston into taking drastic actions and making the crowd angrier. Here, it's only the reveal of the mirror that triggers the crowd. Just, where is this anger coming from? Just another example of a scene not being similar enough nor clever in a different way. If you want an example of a change I genuinely liked, I'd say LeFou. By making LeFou gay and having a change of heart in the end, it gives a nice new spin on the original story. His story arc works perfectly well in the context of the movie, and it doesn't need nostalgia to win you over. I only wish more changes were like this.
It's never gonna happen, ladies.
Number 5. Scene where Maurice gets captured. I get what they were trying to do with this scene. They tried to make it a mix between what happens in the original tale and in the Disney adaptation. In the original tale, Maurice enters the castle in a calm state to seek shelter. In this movie, he's also relatively calm, and it's the stealing of a rose that triggers the Beast into taking Maurice prisoner. It's a nice idea to stick more to the original tale. However, this doesn't work because it still follows the Disney version story, and the emotional tones of these parts of the stories don't match as well. In the Disney movie, it's almost like something out of a horror movie. There's a great sense of unease and suspense as they're building up the wolf encounter. You don't even get a good view of the wolves until the horse already ran away in fear. A masterly crafted piece of animation. In the remake, they toned down the intensity of this encounter. Maurice jokes around about the snow like there's no worry in the world. The wolves pop up and are immediately in plain sight without a subtle build-up. Maurice doesn't seem particularly shocked by the wolves, nor does a wolf actually bite him. Even when the carriage breaks, the horse, for some reason, waits patiently for Maurice in the middle of a group of wolves, rather than running away. The wolves also stop following Maurice when he enters the castle ground, even though there's no fence to stop them this time around. Yeah, great way of making us fear the wolves, movie. Good job. This moment completely lacks the intensity or horror it should have had. It also makes it kinda strange Maurice got calm so fast as he enters the castle, like he doesn't seem to care that much that he almost got killed by wolves. This relatively calm tone might have worked if the movie stuck to the original tale all the way. Maurice got lost and just needed some shelter. No wolves, making it much more logical why he is so calm. And it would also make more sense why he casually takes time to pick a rose when he leaves. Contrary to this movie where he runs away, assuming something evil chases him, making him look dumb for actually staying to pick a rose. But as a final icing on the cake, when the Beast enters just when you think stuff goes down, it cuts to the next scene without showing anything. Yeah, this scene miserably fails at making us feel the intensity of the horrifying situation Maurice goes through, as well as it completely throws a good opportunity to develop the Beast's character out of the window. It could have worked if it stuck to either the dark tone of the Disney film or the calmer approach the original tale has, but for what it's now, it's neither. Number 4. When Belle discovers the West Wing. Everything in terms of build-up, cinematography, colors, pacing and music is done so much worse in this crucial scene that it just became annoying to watch. This was also a very suspenseful scene in the original. You knew nothing about the West Wing, only that it's something the Beast is very strict about. Entering that room meant pissing him off, and you don't want to piss him off. So when Belle decides to look for the West Wing, there's some serious suspense. Just look at the ominous way they build up the moment she enters the room. This scene says much about both Belle and the Beast. Not through exposition, but through pure visual storytelling. The West Wing is a dark mess, like there was a battle of some sorts, as well as Belle shows great interest in whatever is lying around in the room. And when Belle almost touches the rose, the Beast notices her and freaks out. And I mean, he gets violent, almost making it look like he's about to attack Belle. In the remake, it's Cogsworth and Lumiere who mention the West Wing, but they give zero clues about why you shouldn't go there. Not hearing it from the Beast himself and how serious he is about it already takes away a bit of the excitement and mystery. There's no clever build-up to Belle entering the room either. The room is not nearly as much of a mess, it's not dark, as well as Belle doesn't remove the glass before the Beast freaks out, making his reason to freak out less intense. But something else I seriously miss is the Beast's reaction. Here, when Belle runs away, it immediately cuts to Belle going outside and leaving. As to in the original, there's this powerful short moment you get to see the reaction of the Beast, being shocked by what he did. By removing these reactions, it removes character development, not making their emotions feel as organic. Not just this scene, but in a large portion, Belle and the Beast lack the basic emotions necessary to make them work as two likable main characters. An underwhelming scene and a good example of why the main characters don't work. Number 3. The library scene. While the West Wing scene is a moment where I dislike both the emotional responses as well as the atmosphere, this scene I dislike mostly because of the story. In the original, the Beast gave Belle the library after she took care of his wounds, because he felt affection for her. He wanted to show his appreciation towards her by giving her a gift he knew would make her really happy. He even makes a little game of it, bringing Belle along, promising a surprise and asking her to cover her eyes, which is a very likable little touch. Seeing the utter happiness of the Beast as he sees Belle's enthusiasm is contagious. It was the first big moment that showed the likable, gentle side of the Beast, that there was more to him than just a big grump that can fight for you. The remake changed the context of the library reveal scene in an awful way, in my opinion. In the remake, they happen to talk about books, as the Beast says he'll show Belle where he's got to read. This entire reveal is nothing but a quick show-off of his collection, instead of a gift that showed his affection. He does offer the books at the end of this scene, but not out of romantic or thankful intentions, which genuinely pissed me off in how less likable it is. It seems that every chance this movie gets to develop the Beast, they don't make use of it. To this movie's credit, I do however like how they actually share the interest of reading in this version, but I vastly dislike the library scene because, by changing his intentions and the happy reaction of him, it makes the Beast not nearly as likable as he was in the original. Number 2. Scene where Belle hears the bad news about her father. So far, I've mostly talked about shortcomings or underplayed emotional responses. This moment also suffers from that, but what makes it so high on the list are the two enormous plot holes that are present as well. Let's talk about them first. In this moment, Belle sees her father is held captive by the town, and he is about to be thrown into a carriage that will take him to an asylum. The Beast lets her go, followed by Belle jumping on her horse and going to help her father before it's too late. First of all, her father's about to be carried to the carriage the moment she sees him in the mirror, but when Belle arrives, he has only just been put into the carriage. Unless the town is right across the freaking street, there's no way Belle could have caught up to him like this. This moment makes no sense. The second plot hole, in case you haven't seen the movie or forgot, needs a bit more explanation. You see, there's an addition to the story in this movie. A magic book that gives the Beast the opportunity to travel anywhere in the world. They use it at one point to visit Paris where Belle was born, not to be mentioned again. The reason I'm bringing this up is, if the Beast actually has a magic book that is able to teleport Belle anywhere in the world, why on earth doesn't she use the darn book to go to her father? Of all the changes in the movie, this one has the most logical errors that are dancing on the front lines. But as I said, it also lacks the emotion, a lot. The story is there, but it's mostly explained to you. The original had believable, strong emotional reactions of the characters, and it was perfectly paced.
He may be dying, and he's all alone. Then you must go to him.
What are they doing to him? He's in trouble.
Then you must go to him.
Here, Watson doesn't give the part the power it needs, as well as the beast reacts bland. I've already talked about his behavior after Belle left, so I won't dive more into that. This entire scene bothered me because of how sad I think the original version is, and how much I didn't care for this one. Add 2 bothersome plot holes and it makes the number 2 on this list. And the worst change in the Beauty and the Beast remake is... Belle and the Beast haven't been given enough personality. Okay, not really a particular change, since there are multiple changes combined. Neither is it really a huge reveal, since I already said it in the video and I even gave multiple examples, but these moments suffer from the same problem and have a negative effect on the same thing, the main characters. The story is about 2 people falling in love, but when both characters come across as bland and underdeveloped, the entire movie suffers from it. Of the scenes I haven't talked about, the sequence that bothers me the most, and I mean my most hated aspect about this entire movie, is the Beast's behavior as Belle stays the first night. In the original, the Beast tried his best to make a good impression on Belle. The only way to break the curse is to make someone fall in love with him. A girl suddenly stays at his place. This is the chance he has been waiting for. He offers her a room and invites her to dinner. It's in grumpy fashion and he vastly screws up with his anger explosions, but you can see he's trying. The Beast from the remake just lets her stay in her cell without paying attention to her. This is literally the dumbest thing he could possibly do in that situation. This strange decision makes it look like he doesn't care about the curse, about his servants, has no interest in Belle, or even has a brain for that matter. Again, the servants in this movie straight up die if he doesn't do anything, making him look like an even bigger idiot. How did he act in the original again compared to the new one?
Master, have you thought that perhaps this girl could be the one to break the spell?
Of course I have. I'm not a fool.
She's the daughter of a common thief. What kind of person do you think that makes her?
Why care if her father is a thief? Just take the only opportunity you'll get and roll with it. It's not until the West Wing that they actually share a moment on screen together, aside from the moment Belle looked for her father. It's this lack of interest from the Beast and the removal of some of their moments together or their emotional responses that make the base of this relationship incredibly clunky. Another example of lack of emotion is the Be Our Guest scene. The song itself I think is a ton of fun, especially in 3D this was a spectacle. But look at the reaction of Belle compared to the original. Belle reacts enthusiastic to the song, swinging along and tasting all the different foods, even applauding at the end and showing great interest in the castle. In the remake, she does nothing but casually smile at the side during a song, and when the song ends, how does she react? There's nothing. They cut away to the next scene, instead of using the chance of showing some actual human emotion. Okay, just that you have well-developed characters in the original doesn't mean I'm going to take their actions into account for the remake. You need to remind me of why I love them. I think Emma Watson is alright as an actress, but this role is just too big for her. She never makes me believe I'm looking at Belle. I'm looking at someone trying to be Belle, but the body languages and facial expressions aren't strong enough to make this character believable. Last but not least, the famous dance scene. They just blandly stare at each other and smile. Where are the nice touches like Beast being so nervous, but when Belle hugs him he smiles enthusiastically? Or them eating dinner but Belle taking his hands while he isn't entirely sure how to react? You don't need to copy those, but at least give us something else clever in return. It's all just so bland and dull how it's done now. With the exception of the conversations about books or when she takes care of his wounds, I care nothing for these two. They didn't look like the characters I grew up with. They look like imitators that don't know how the characters work, so they just tried to do similar things hoping it would have the same effect. That's this entire movie. A weaker imitation that just lacks the strength in every possible way. I think it has a couple of fun little touches here and there, like 2 nice new songs, decent covers of old songs, one change that genuinely works as its own thing, some funny moments, but for the rest, this was a big disappointment. If you want to know my personal opinion about a fun live-action Beauty and the Beast remake, I think the 2014 adaptation was fun. Sure, it's far from perfect and I wouldn't call it a great movie, but it's a completely different take on the original tale that does its own thing, like a different backstory for the Beast, a Gaston-like character that is treated in a much different way, a completely different climax, It's visually gorgeous and it has an overall different tone and feel. I thought this was a fun live-action adaptation of the story, and if you're interested, I'd say give it a try. So that was my top 10 worst changes in the Beauty and the Beast remake. What are your thoughts on the movie? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.
In a spitting match, nobody spits like Gaston.
I'm a special